Alright, hello and welcome to Development Heck. I'm your host, Zen, and this is basically going to be a series about all the projects I wish I could complete, but I just can't. And I'm at the end of my rope, and I can't give up, but I don't have the resources to go on. So, as best as I can figure, this is just gonna be what I can do. So, here we go. First of all, I guess maybe this is going to be a video where I just kind of make excuses or give explanations as to why I ended up here in the first place. I recognize that I don't have the same opportunities that other people are afforded. So, I grew up with my grandparents, and they were very not understanding of me being an artist. At first they were, when it was cute, when I was little and working with crayons and stuff, it was cute. You know, I wanted to grow up and be like Walt Disney, and I would do reports in school about Walt Disney, but then, for some reason, their tune changed, and they asked me to get more serious, and they tried to push me into other career paths that weren't right for me. They tried to push me into marine biology because I expressed an interest in the undersea world, and they pushed me into marketing and advertising when that's not really what I want to do, and they didn't fully understand what marketing is. So, and then they tried to get me into sports. You know, there were times when I could have been studying and working on my craft, but I was interrupted and taken to other extracurricular activities because they were terrified that I was limiting myself. So that was a constant complaint that they had. But I just wanted to draw. I just wanted to tell stories and draw and hone my craft. And I was deterred and interrupted as much as possible by my grandparents, who did not see this as being a viable career for me. And that was really frustrating. We had money, but we didn't. There were times in my childhood when we were going on, like, elaborate vacations to Disney World with other relatives, but I think it was because those relatives were, like, pitching in money to do so, or somebody had a season pass. So from the outside, it looked like we were having these really great, expensive trips, but we were also, like, eating weird stuff at home. Like, I remember we had the same beef stew for months on end, and we would, like, freeze it in freezer bags, and that was what we ate almost nonstop for months. Just budget food here and there, constantly complaining about money. So when I asked for Photoshop and other programs that I could use to further my art, I was denied repeatedly. So I noticed that other kids my age, especially young artists that were thriving, had supportive parents who were, what's the word? Not just supportive, but praising and admiring of their work, and would leave them to their craft. I was not left to my own devices as much as I needed to be. Literally my own devices. Like, I had a computer, but I was constantly being told that I was on it too much. My household was also abusive. I can remember an instance where I was trying to do something on the computer, and my step-grandfather, I lived with my step-grandfather and my grandma. I never met my real grandfather, I should specify, I guess. But there was one day where he was so upset that I wasn't coming to dinner exactly the moment that he wanted me to, because I was working on something on the computer, so he thought it would be a good idea to throw something glass at my head and the screen. And I would have things thrown at me. So it was a scary time. It was a hostile environment, and I was not given the materials that I needed to continue. I did become pretty good at using MS Paint, though. If there was any free programs, GIMP was a little bit too much for me when I was young. It was very overwhelming, and I couldn't figure out the tutorials. But I did figure out MS Paint, And later on, I got Clip Studio Paint as an adult, but I'm very behind the curve, I feel. So, I don't know, I was obsessed with art. We got a copy of The Illusion of Life, which I cherish to this day, and it was a big book. I used to lug that with me to school and read it. I used to sleep with it under my pillow to keep it away from my grandparents sometimes. It's a very well-loved copy of that book. And it has autograph by Frank and Ollie in the inside, so it's a very precious thing to me. But I kept drawing, I couldn't not draw. It's part of who I am, so I kept trying to write and tell stories, but I could never finish any of them because I just didn't have the resources to bring them to fruition. Just constant interruptions. Go to this summer camp, go to piano practice, which I only started piano practice because I wanted to be a film score composer. And that was denied too. They wanted me to be a concert pianist very badly, and I didn't want to continuously play other people's music. I wanted to also have time to compose my own, which my grandparents viewed as goofing off. Anything that was goofing off, I was not allowed to do. But in private, when they weren't around, maybe early in the morning when I got to be on the computer, and when I got my first earbuds, I got into stand-up comedy. I loved the outlet of somebody getting to stand up on a stage and all they're doing is talking and making people laugh and just doing great at it. I became enamored with Mitch Hedberg, who I later found out my dad actually used to know. Mitch Hedberg used to stay over at my dad's house every once in a while. Mitch Hedberg and Brian Regan and various Christian comedians, because I was a Christian at the time. Tim Hawkins, Bob Smiley. People like that I just thought were really cool. And there were so many things that I wanted to do with storytelling and with artwork. I just couldn't get any of them done. And I thought by the time I became an adult, I would start to get the ball rolling and finish things. I thought by now, after I'd gotten away from my grandparents, after I'd gotten out of that situation, I thought maybe I would be able to get things done. I went to the wrong school. I went to Liberty University. They lied to me and told me that they would have an animation major by the time I got there, and they didn't. I tried to get with other students to make films, and I made some acquaintances, but I never really clicked with anybody as much as I wanted to. Certainly not enough to work together. And other people had different visions for what they wanted to do, and my visions were unorthodox, to say the least. I lost myself for a while there because most of the stories that they wanted me to tell in a Christian media situation, the stories that were in demand for those types of projects were not what I wanted to tell. I wanted to tell stories based on my life. I wanted to talk about lessons that I learned from those experiences and things that I wanted to pass down to people. And I wanted to talk about nature, and I wanted to talk about, animal characters, which for some people were frowned upon. There's some Christians who don't want to use animal characters in their media because animals don't have souls, so, things of that nature. So, I pitched several ideas that were all turned down. It was a very weird time for me. I was meeting some pretty big names in Christian media. Like, I met Phil Vischer, creator of VeggieTales. We met briefly. I talked to Kirk Cameron for a little bit. That was interesting. And kind of an accident, because I went to a room that he was in with another student and crew and cast members, and they were having, like, a dinner that I wasn't supposed to attend, but I did. I had a pitch Bible for one of my series with me, and they just thought I was part of the crew. Like, I was dressed, professionally, and they had no idea who I was. It was an accident, but that happened. These are not people that I necessarily have a high opinion of now, but, at the time, they were the people to talk to. So, in that environment anyway. So, I missed out on going to, a proper art school. I could have gone to, Cal Arts or Ringling or something, but those are also highly competitive environments, and if you didn't have Photoshop and most of your artwork was done with school supply colored pencils that were mandatory for the year and pencil sketches, that's not necessarily what they want to see in your portfolio from what I understand. And my animation skills were literally the corner of pieces of paper, flip books, and I just didn't have the time. I didn't have enough experience. I didn't have the right programs. I didn't have enough guidance. There were a lot of things that other people get that I just didn't get. So I just continuously, in my opinion anyway, I continuously fell behind. No matter how much I wanted to be an animator and a storyteller and a director, all these things, what I really wanted to do was create animated films and series. And I haven't been on the path to do that. I've been lost for a very, very long time. So I thought by the time I became an adult, I would have made something. And I'm really disappointed in myself that I haven't. So what I decided to do was start this series and see if maybe I can find a way out of this. I'm not in the right place to do anything. I just want this more than anything, though. There's things that I feel like I was put here to do, and making animated films and things is one of them. But I'm pretty lost, pretty ignorant, and pretty discouraged, to say the least. There's so much I don't know. There's so much I feel completely behind on. I don't know where to start anymore. But I feel like at least I can talk about the fact that I don't know where to start. At least I can put this out there. So that's what this series is going to be about. Is projects that I'm really passionate about, that I really want to complete, but I just don't know how. I don't know. I'm working a job that takes up almost all my time and energy. And I have autism, anxiety, and depression, among other things such as complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And there's a lot of awful things that have happened to me, and a lot of mistakes I've made. And I want things to turn out right. At some point, there's gotta be a way for me to tell the stories I want to tell, in the medium that I feel they belong in. And hopefully I get to do that. So that's what Development Heck is going to be. Yeah. Thanks for listening. I don't know if I'm going to have comments on this video or not. It's kind of hard to trust people to be respectful, so I don't know. We'll figure out what happens. But, let's see if this works. Something at some point has to work. Something at some point has to work.